Welcome to Creating the Muse podcast, brought to you by Into Pages. This is a space where creativity takes center stage and entrepreneurship becomes an art form. Join us as we dive into the stories of visionary individuals who have harnessed their inner muse to build thriving businesses and craft lives of passion and purpose. Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of Creating the Muse. I'm your host, Indiana Holley, and today we have the honor of sitting down with the exceptional guest, my personal mentor, Lara Nercessian. Lara is not only an executive presence and a mindset expert, but also an accomplished speaker and a host of the top-rated podcast, Boston Hills, that explores the habits, mindsets, routines, and rituals of inspirational CEOs, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and world-class performers. In this episode, Lara will share her wealth of knowledge and experience in cultivating a fearless mindset and harnessing personal power for success. Whether you're looking to elevate your career, conquer your fears, or simply find inspiration for your personal journey, Lara Nercessian's wisdom and guidance will undoubtedly leave a lasting impact. So without further ado, let's welcome Lara to the podcast.
Oh my goodness, what an intro. Thank you so much for having me, Indiana. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Seriously, the honor is all mine. I just love that I get to turn the tables on you and interview the interviewer.
It always feels a little different when I'm on this side of the microphone, but I'm happy to be doing it with you.
Oh, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You have no idea how much this means to me. Like, you've been my own personal mentor for, I don't know, how long has it been since?
Yeah, I feel like it's
Yeah.
probably been about 6 or 7 months now that we've been really connected together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what a journey it has been.
It's been such an
It's been
incredible
exceptional.
journey, really. Yeah.
Like, I guess where I want to start is right back at the beginning. So, I guess the appreciation of your routines. I'd love to know where your appreciation stemmed from. Where did it all begin from?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. I feel like I was really quite a disciplined kid growing up. It was just something that was innately me. And I really used to be quite focused when it came to studying, and I'd have quite a rigorous schedule that I would create for myself. And that was my way back then of knowing that I would be ticking all the boxes and getting everything that I needed to get done, and I just felt really good. But I wish I could say it was just this linear path from there and it just stuck for the rest of my life. It didn't quite work out that way. I was actually early in my career, and I was starting my day by waking up, snoozing my alarm 17 times, scrolling through my phone, skimping on my morning, rituals and things like that. So, little things that seem quite subtle, but have a big impact on the way that you actually feel. So as an example, rather than taking my time to do my hair, I would cut out the time to do my hair. And so it would just be slicked back in this bun. And then rather than making the time to have this nutritious breakfast, I would just put 2 pieces of toast in the toaster and slap on some peanut butter. I would get in the car. I would have this stressful commute. I would be stuck in peak hour traffic, driving to the other side of Sydney. And I would start my day feeling really flustered and anxious and frustrated. And this had all happened before 9 a.m. And I realized there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than starting my day this way, because this is no longer feeling good for me. In fact, it probably never felt good for me. And so I really started getting quite curious about the habits and routines of elite performers. And I started reading and I started researching, and I kind of went down this rabbit hole of becoming quite obsessed and fascinated by what do world-class performers do. And I was quite astounded to see the commonalities that world-class performers had in common. They would rise early, they would work out, they would do some form of meditation. Like there were certain boxes that they were ticking. And I could not help but see that this was no coincidence. I'm like, there's something to this. And so I started to play around with this a little bit in my life. And it started by just waking up a little bit earlier. And eventually I would get myself to the gym in the morning before work, because prior to that, I would leave my workout to the evening. And then it may or may not happen, right? Because someone would come to my desk or my office or wherever I was working at the time. And at 6 p.m., they would start having this conversation with me. And I had really weak boundaries back then, so I wouldn't be able to stop the conversation. Lo and behold, there goes my workout for the evening. And so I was like, what would happen if I actually put the things that really mattered to me at the beginning of the day before anyone else needs me? Because at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, no one's calling me, no one's asking anything of me at that time. What would happen if I started to put the things that mattered to me at the beginning of the day before I clocked on to the rest of my day? And so it started as quite a gradual thing. You know, it started with the workout, and then I was like, oh, maybe I can introduce like a little bit of reading, and, you know, and it just evolved and grew over time, and it refined and refined. And then I started to feel like a different human being. There's an undeniable power to routines that I feel like I've really been the living embodiment of. And that's what's made me so passionate about teaching this to other people, is I know how much this has helped me in my own life in terms of how I feel and how I structure my day and the productivity that I have with the level of spaciousness. Like, this has changed the experience of my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this with people that come into my world.
Oh, I just love that so much. I can feel the energy just tingling on my skin when you talk about it, because it's such a philosophy that's been around forever, but it's not, people just not putting it into practice, because you always hear, oh, I'm time poor or I'm exhausted. But what I love about your work, Lara, is I think I've said to you previously, it feels like being in your container, the up level experience. I said to you, I feel like you're secretly using routines as the guise for helping people to prioritize themselves and build their self-belief and their trust within themselves. Because I feel that's what it is. You've previously said in the past that, you know, leaving your workouts to the end of the day or whatever priority things that you have passion for, it was kind of like leaving yourself the breadcrumbs at the end of the day, leaving yourself breadcrumbs on the weekend. But so doing everything you love first thing in the morning, especially self-care practices, um, it seems to have that underpinned concept of I'm worthy of it. Like, this is for me. And I love that that's what your work, the gift that you're giving to other people. So thank you.
Oh, I love that so much. And it's so interesting that you've really seen and experienced that firsthand, Indiana, because it was not the intention to be like, I'll come into my world for routines and like, like so much. It wasn't like that. It just happened quite naturally and quite organically, in that this is kind of like setting the foundations of getting you to trust yourself and getting you to feel like you are worthy of giving yourself this prime time of the day. And when you start to treat yourself like you matter, that you are the most important person in your life because you are, then everything around you starts to shift, and you start to realize, not only am I benefiting from this, but I'm actually able to give so much more and serve everyone around me to a higher level. And whether you're a mother, whether you are a wife, a partner, a friend, a colleague, you know, whoever you are, whatever roles you play in your life, I wholeheartedly believe that this makes you better at those roles as well, because you're not trying to pour from this empty source. You're filling up your cup with so much goodness and so much joy and so much fulfillment, and the things that really nourish your soul at the beginning of the day. And from that place where it's like, I feel so good, imagine how much more I can give to other people. I'm not pouring from this place of resent or a place of lack. I'm pouring from a place of overflow. I'm good and I get to give you so much because I've given myself so much. And that's the reframe.
Love that so much. And I feel that I remember when I was living in Melbourne and I felt like it was similar to your story of you hit snooze and then you've only got 20 minutes to get ready and you're not nourishing yourself with proper food. And then you're rushing into the city to get to work. And then you're rushing into the lift and you're fighting with the crowds and you rush your whole day throughout, the stress, high anxiety of your life, and then you come home and then you just fall into a heap. So I have compassion for others that feel that way, but I also feel like these tools are, it's the secret ingredient to taking back, reclaiming yourself.
Reclaiming your personal power, absolutely. And I also have so much empathy and compassion for everyone that feels like their life is like really reactive. It's like you're just reacting to everybody else's requests and wishes and demands of you. Like, I actually know what that feels like because I used to live my life that exact same way. And that's why I'm able to really, pave this path for others, because I know what it felt like to be there. I was living that life. And I've seen that with this level of proactivity and intentionality, how much can shift for you. And it's really such a spectacular thing when you choose to lead yourself through life in this way.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. And you paving that way because you were previously in corporate. And I remember when I first started the container and I said to you, Lara, I just don't have energy to get up at 5 a.m. But then having that, seeing you walk the talk and seeing you do your full, general managers, a full on role. Like it's not something lighthearted. It's not willy-nilly. You're giving a lot of your energy for that. But you also showed up, your posts with which I'd love to get into your daily post as well, which is inspiring other people. But getting up and taking photos of yourself at the gym at 5 a.m. and enjoying and savoring your sacred weekends. It's like you're showing, mirroring to other people that they too can have that. So yeah, it's extraordinary.
Thank you
Absolutely
so much.
wonderful. So
Thank
I,
you.
I guess the other aspect in your guys of building an army of women who with self-belief and a trust within themselves, but it's also the energetic concept of nothing changes as nothing changes. So you can wish upon having a more of an abundant life, having more time, like the things that you want, that your deepest desires, but literally nothing changes if nothing changes. So actually shifting the energy, which is the other great thing about these routines, is like saying to the universe, I'm showing up for myself, and now it's working together in co-creation. So I guess my question to you is, I've always wanted to hear this story from you, is your morning routine of Dr. Joe Dispenza and doing that energetic work and the concept of the meditation. And I know you've mentioned a couple of times of the extraordinary outcomes that you've had by doing that energy work. So can we delve into that a bit?
Oh my gosh, the energy work has been so big for me. And I know that to some, this may sound a little woo-woo or a little bit weird, but honestly, it's when you actually start to tap into this kind of source and you realize that everything really is in co-creation with the universe, and the universe is always trying to look out for us, really. Even when perceived negative things happened, usually there's something in that's designed to serve us. It's a lesson that's going to help us reach that next level. It's almost testing us in a way of, you've said you want these things, do you actually want them? And so there's been quite a lot of work that I have done in this space, and there's been a few things. I know you wanted to ask me about like books I've read and things like that. I read
Yes,
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe
love that.
Dispenza a few years ago. And that book gave me probably the most amount of breakthroughs than any other book I've ever read. I was like losing my mind while I was reading this book, because I was like, oh, whoa, and I could just feel that universal truth in my body. And after that point, I started to do these 15-minute long Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations every morning. And it's a manifestation meditation is the particular one that I do. And it really just, when you constantly put in that intentional focus and energy towards visualizing your future, not just thinking about your future, but vividly visualizing your future, you can see it with such clarity and such color in your life. Things start to transpire, things start to happen. Some of the things that I used to visualize and wish for actually ended up happening in the wildest ways, whether it was, you know, looking back to a few years ago and wanting this dream car as an example, and then forgetting that I had kind of postulated that into the field, and then all of a sudden the car kind of just shows up in my
I love that.
or, you know, like just during COVID, during the pandemic is another one where I really put a lot of intentionality and manifestation behind, you know, I would love to be able to go overseas, and you know, and my husband was like working, like, so it was very easy for him to get his exemption, not so much for me. And I had to, you know, apply numerous times to get this exemption to leave the country. And I really put so much like I was visualizing myself over there, like every morning, every night I would go to sleep like with this vision, and then the vision came true. And I remember sitting on the plane and there was 10 other people on this entire aircraft.
Wow.
The craziest time to ever be on an airplane and to ever be in an airport. The ratio of ground staff to customers was 10-1. And it was this out of this world experience of just like, I literally manifested this. And there's been so many things I've manifested in my life. And I know in the up level experience, I've shared many other stories, things that don't even make sense. You know, things that it's just like, oh, good luck getting that. There's an 18-month long wait list. Oh, wait, Lara, we want to give it to you. You know, like there's things like this that have continually happened and have given me so much evidence that this is all possible, and that I'm actually able to create the life that I desire to live. Everything that I desire on my heart is destined to be mine. And my job is to clear out all the negative talk, negative beliefs, so that I can pave this way of, this is what I desire. And so there's a reason why this is my desire. It's not anybody else's desire. This is my desire. And it's my job to actually live this out. It's my job to actually co-create this miraculous life with the universe. And that's sounds a little woo-woo and a little bit like too spiritual for maybe some people. Like, I totally get that. But when you actually start to tap into this and you start to live your life like this, there's more and more evidence that this actually works. And then, you know, in addition to that, I did do quite a bit of work with an energetics and embodiment coach.
Oh, Kate, that was Kate, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Kate Blake, she's extraordinary. And she really helped me to take up more space in my own life and really kind of clear out whatever it was from an energetic standpoint, so that I could really claim what I wanted to be mine. And so all of those things, it's not just been one thing. Sometimes there's these big things that we do, or these immersive experiences, but then it's the daily practices and the compounding effect of these things that, if you do one meditation, it's just like going to the gym. What is one workout going to do for you?
Yeah, that's so true.
You might feel good in the moment and it'll do a little something, but if you do it once and go once a year, you're not really going to get the benefits of it. Whereas if you actually started moving your body every day over the course of 365 days of the year, you're going to have a completely different outcome in terms of how strong you are, in terms of your fitness, in terms of how vital and energized you feel. And so it's asking yourself, what are those daily habits that are ultimately going to create the kind of life that I want to live, and ultimately result in becoming the kind of person that I want to become. And it's been a result of like really looking at my life and the vision that I have, and in a way reverse engineering all of those things, energetics work included, manifestation work included, this matters to me. The experience of my life matters to me. And so why wouldn't I carve out 15 minutes in my day? I think there's this quote by Tony Robbins. This is Tony Robbins, not me, who said, if you don't have 10 minutes in your day, you don't have a life.
That
And
got me good when you said that to me in the container. I nearly cried.
it's so true though, because if we cannot find 10 minutes for ourselves, so something that is so important to us, what are we even doing? And I guarantee you've got 10 minutes to scroll every day. Show me your screen time, and I will tell you you've got 10 minutes to meditate, 10 minutes to work out, And so it's just like making that decision that I'm important enough, I'm worthy enough, my dreams, my goals, the way that I live my life matters. My experience of my life matters. And taking that part of it seriously, it's like I have a great time living my life every day, but I'll also take the work that I do very seriously, because I know that this lifetime, this human experience matters to me.
Yeah. Oh my God, so many things I wanted to touch on there. I know that you've used the analogy of building a momentum as kind of like trying to start a jet plane again, like having to do that every single time you don't keep that momentum, like just putting that perspective in your head of like, that's literally the energy that it takes to build and keep it going. So why would you just go to the gym once or meditate once? So just the power of that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's I love this analogy so much. I even forgot I said that. So thank you for reminding me about that. But it's like, when you go to the gym once a year, once every 6 months, once a month, it feels like such a nerve-wracking thing. It feels like a big ordeal to do that, because you're like, I actually have a little bit of fear about going back. Whereas when this is just an embodiment and it becomes part of your identity and who you are, you don't even think about it. And so the actual energy that it takes for me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym, because I practice this on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't take me a lot to do it. I've got my systems, I've got my time frame, I've got my structure in place. If I try to do a one-off 5 a.m. workout once a month, that's
It's rough,
really brutal. And even just going to the gym once a month versus 3 times a week feels like a very different experience. And so starting really small, even if you just start with 10 minutes of working out a day, walking around the block, getting used to the idea of this is something that matters to me, and I'm going to find that 10 minutes in my day to do it, that compounds over time, and you start to enjoy the actual experience and process of it.
And I love it's kind of like that concept of reclaiming and taking back what's yours. Like, it's like, this is my energy. I'm keeping this for myself. So, and I was just thinking your word, I know for the theme of the magazine was fearless this month, but I reckon it should have been embodiment now, because that is your word, isn't it? From everything that you practice and showing up for yourself and your trust, your level of trust. Like I know you said the 8-month waiting list where ladies were like, oh, you couldn't have that. I think it was the watch for your hubby, but you knew deep down, like that level of trust, not specifically for the universe showing up for you, but for you showing up for yourself. It's like,
yeah, that's exactly right. It's like this way of showing up for myself every day undeniably builds a level of self-trust within myself, because when I say I'm going to do something, I actually do it. And so even if it's a really small, seemingly small thing, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get up, I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to, whatever it is that I commit to doing. Right now, I'm doing this 365 challenge where I'm posting every single day. And right now, I think I'm up to day 238 or something like that. That is not easy to sometimes show up for yourself and make these commitments 365 days of the year. Like, I totally get that.
No sickies there.
What it does for your self-trust and your confidence, though, it skyrockets your confidence when you actually become someone who keeps the promises that they make to themselves. That follow through builds an enormous amount of self-trust, and that self-trust compounds and becomes self-confidence, that I actually know myself enough to know that when I say I'm going to do something, I actually do it and I actually follow through on that. Versus where we get a little bit wobbly with our self-confidence is I'm going to say I'm going to do something and then I'm going to be half-hearted about, I'm going to have one foot in, one foot out. And then I don't have a lot of evidence to myself to show that I follow through on the things I say I'm going to do. So when I make this commitment, I don't really know if I'm going to be able to follow through on it, because the evidence every time I've said I'm going to make a commitment, it's very wobbly. Versus when I say I'm going to do something, I actually do it and I become the kind of person that does what they say no matter what. And when you become like that kind of a person that follows through on their own word and the promises that they make to themselves, it will change the way you feel about yourself, and you will establish such a more solid foundation for yourself of, I trust myself, I can just move, I can just get things done. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I can actually get it done, because this is the evidence that I've continually created for myself. And that is a really different experience of confidence and self-trust and self-belief within ourselves.
Oh, Lara, I love that so much. And I guess it is that concept of, I used to think I was stubborn. Like, I know at the start of the year, I said to myself, we made a pact with a group of friends that said, I'm not going to drink all year. And I'm the last man standing. And everyone's like, why aren't you just having a drink? And I thought it was because I was stubborn. But the truth is I don't want to betray myself. I can't do that. I've done that in my youth, and it's like, no way, that is not happening anymore. So it just reaffirms that the importance of just not failing on yourself, not breaking that for yourself at all. So
I
we need,
love that so much. And, at this stage of the year, we're in October now, and it's like you haven't come this far just to come this far. If
no,
you do the 9 months, you can absolutely do the 3 months, and then you can probably have a celebratory glass of champagne.
amazing.
Really, and really feel like you deserve and you've
Oh,
earned
savor it.
celebration, because it's like I actually am toasting to myself for honoring my word. Like you actually get to do that, and that's such a beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you. And I thought it was such a small thing, but it's not. When you look at the underlying energy that goes behind it, it's actually such a big thing. So I have to ask, 365 days and the momentum concept as well. What is showing up for you based on posting on social media for that a length of time? There has to be some kind of energy that's happening behind it for that momentum. So could you share about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a little bit of a love-hate relationship with
I
particular
bet.
challenge, to be perfectly
Just the
honest.
creativity. Oh my God,
That's
what am I going
it.
to
And
post?
that's exactly what it is. And some days I'm like, I've got nothing. Like
Yeah.
this is the last thing I feel like doing. And there has been days that I've been busy living my life, and it's gotten to 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I'm like, oh no, like what am I going to post today? And there has been that experience as well. But what I have really enjoyed about it is when you do something 365 days of the year and you make that kind of commitment to yourself, there's a few things that happen. Firstly, before I had done this challenge, even though I'm very used to showing up on social media and I've been in this world for a while now, and I've got my podcast, and showing my face on the internet is not as scary as it was, let's just say, at the beginning. You definitely do get more comfortable having a camera in your face and connecting with people. Like that part of it comes with time and comes with practice. But I felt like creating a reel was a really big ordeal. If I reflect back to 12 months ago, 2 years ago, something like that, for me to talk into a camera and actually not create stories, but to create a reel felt like a big deal. Like I've got to really come up with something good to put it on my feed. And there was this pressure that came with creating. And what I felt that when I started to actually do this every single day, at the beginning, it was quite difficult, because it was like, oh, there's this pressure that I've got to create the perfect post. What I found though is that it actually becomes much easier when you focus less on creating the perfect post and you actually live your life with a lens of what magic is going to happen today, what
I love
moment am
that.
I worth capturing today, what is one contemplation that I've had today or a client interaction that I've had today that I'm going to be able to come on for a minute and talk about it and share. So that's been one thing, is it's really made me look at my life through a different lens of how could I extract a lesson or a moment from every single day. And then at the end of the 365 days, almost have this depository of these little moments of my life of where I was at and what I was doing and what I was contemplating on and what I was celebrating and what moment really stood out to me through a client interaction. So that's one thing that's transpired. The second one is it really took the pressure off creating in a funny way, because it's like, oh, I get to just show up for a minute. And the more I show up for a minute, the easier that minute of showing up becomes, because it's very difficult for us to become concise in the way that we speak and the way that we articulate ourselves. And one of the things that I really loved from doing this challenge and committing to this was I had this idea of, imagine how much more concise I'm going to become if I get used to articulating one point within, whatever a reel is. It's 90 seconds now that you've got. Within 90 seconds, if I can articulate a point and do that over and over and over again, imagine how my communication is going to sharpen. Imagine how much more I'm going to be able to show up confidently and with conviction. Imagine how much more I'm going to be able to refine my message. Imagine how I'm going to be able to really just fine tune what it is that I really want to share and talk about and spread my message about, and so there's been that. And then similar to the gym example that I just shared, the same goes for a reel, right? Like, or a video or showing up online. If I was to post a reel once a year, that feels like a huge ordeal. If I were to show up and post a reel once a month, still feels like a lot of energy needs to go into creating that one thing. I'm going to be overthinking it. I'm going to be like, it's a whole situation. Once a week, okay, it's a little bit easier. I'm doing it instead of once a year, I'm doing it 12 times a year. Now I'm doing it 52 times a year. But imagine if I were to do this 365 days of the year. That's 365 times more practice I'm getting at refining this skill and showing up in this way than if I were to do it once a year. Same goes for anything in our lives. If you want to collapse time, this is the best way you can do it, is actually just start doing more of it within the same amount of time. And if I were to say post a reel once a year, I'd have to wait 365 years. It's humanly impossible to get that same exposure and that same practice. Yeah. This is an incredibly effective tool and a little bit of like a tactic that I've got in my little treasure chest of this is how you can collapse time. This is how you can really fast track some of these skills.
I'm thinking as you're speaking, it's like the thought process, like just breaking down the block within my mind, is a lot of a recovering perfectionist, right? So, and a level of anxiety, generalized anxiety that, I've experienced within my life. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking you put these things off because of the anxiety and the level of not feeling like you're perfect enough. But as you're speaking and you're talking about perfecting as you do it 365 days, my brain's going, hang on, what have you been thinking to alleviate anxiety and to remove the concept of perfectionist? If you just did it, it's like that old saying of, if you don't know how to explain it simply, you don't know your subject, right? But if you did that 365 days, herein lies.
This is the thing. It seems so counterintuitive because sometimes we're waiting for the perfect moment, but the perfect moment actually comes through quantity, not quality.
Yes.
And so we think we have to create the perfect piece of content before it's worthy or good enough of putting out there. But actually, the way that we get those perfect pieces of content or those extraordinary pieces of content is through the quantity, is the volume, that when you do it more, that's where the golden nuggets extracted. And you don't get that by putting it off and procrastinating. You actually get that good by practicing. So we can't underestimate the power of practice and the power of just committing and being okay with starting as a beginner, knowing that everybody started at day zero at some point, you know, and especially when it comes to showing up online and public speaking skills and things of this nature, no one was born with these skills. They're absolutely skills that you can develop. And so you have two choices. You can either let the fear paralyze you from taking action, or you can accept that fear is a very normal and real part of the process. And fear can be used as a very powerful motivator if you convert the fear from anxiety into excitement. You actually decide that, yes, I feel scared, and I'm going to decide to go ahead and do this anyway. And I know that the more I do this, it's going to just get easier. And so we start to develop this different relationship with the things that scare us. And that's how we get to still feel fear. Like the fear is real. I'm not denying that it's not there. Sometimes I still get a little bit of fear. You know, I think that's very normal. And I think what that shows is that I care, you know, and I think that I would hate to not care. You know, I think that I would rather have a little bit of fear. And the moment I can get into the zone, that fear becomes excitement, it becomes energy. And it's the thing that kind of just like I get into my zone. But it's very normal that those feelings arise. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do with it? How you choose to.
You're going to let it conquer you, or are you going to rise to the occasion? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And hence the reason the theme for the magazine this month, Fearless, because this is what it's all about. It's just showing up for yourself anyway, feeling the fear and moving through it anyway. So
Yeah.
I had to touch on, I just wanted to thank you as well, because for somebody that was a perfectionist, you said something in the container as well. It's like, show up, have the 80-20 rule. It's 80% perfect, 20% not so perfect, and that really stuck with me. It's like, I can do that. I can work with a 20% margin of not being perfect. So, and it worked. So worked, because I am showing up now. So yeah, I'm not 365 days.
It doesn't have to be 365 days. You know what I mean? The fact that you are showing up is extraordinary. And it's a really tactical way of just being like, is this 80% there? If yes, I'm going to go ahead and post it anyway. And the ironic thing is that I used to, in my days of really allowing the perfectionism part of me to really like rule me and kind of take over and take the front seat in my life. Like the perfectionist was in the driver's seat for a very long time. And I realized that if I was able to really build a different kind of relationship with that and actually say to myself, if it's good enough, like if it's 80% there, I'm going to go ahead and post it anyway. Sometimes the ones that I was not going to post ended up having the greatest impact on people.
Wow, there you go.
Best engagement. They were the ones that seemed to touch people the most, because there's such a beauty and a realness in the imperfection. We're all human beings. We're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. We have flaws. We are imperfect beings. That's just how human beings are. And so if we can find this way to really build a different relationship with the fear and the perfectionism and be like, I recognize that this fear is here. I recognize that I have this feeling of not being good enough, not being worthy enough. And with that fear still being there, I'm going to decide to go ahead and do it anyway. And I'm no longer going to use this perfectionism as a disguise for not going ahead and doing the thing. Because this is a little bit of a trick that the mind will play with perfectionists is we will often, perfectionism and procrastination are very closely intertwined, because a very common characteristic of perfectionists is that they will procrastinate so that they can use the lack of time as an excuse for not putting their best work out into the world. oh, it could have been better, but I didn't have enough time to do it. And so there's a lot of procrastination that goes on behind the scenes with a perfectionist. And again, I understand this intricately because I used to operate in this way.
Mm.
And I used to wear perfectionism as this badge of honor. And I used to think it meant that I had really high standards. But when I started to really learn and understand this more, I learned that there's a very fine line and quite a subtle energetic difference between having high standards and being a perfectionist. And I recognized that what I wanted was to be someone that has high standards, but I didn't want to hide behind my perfectionism anymore, because the perfectionism was the thing that caused the inaction. And so how can we develop this different relationship with ourselves where we can really move forward, accept that fear as part of the process, accept that everyone starts at day zero, day one. It would be so unfair for me to compare my day one of a piece of content or a podcast or
Oh God, yeah.
written piece to somebody else's 500th episode. It's not even a fair comparison. So why do we do that? And we do that because in this world of social media and this digital age, it's very easy for us to fall into this comparison. And that also creates this level of inaction. But if you could actually shift the way that you show up and actually have the courage to say, I'm really nervous about starting this podcast. I'm actually really scared that I'm going to stuff up. I'm going to say the wrong words. I'm starting at day one. Please be kind to me. Like, I'm on this journey of becoming someone that's going to become an extraordinary podcaster. And if you want to be part of my journey of witnessing how I take myself from day one to day 500 of being this incredible podcaster, I invite you to come along and be part of this journey with me. And do you know how much that is going to unlock for people? It unlocks so much permission for everyone around you who would really be inspired by that, because they're like, wait, I thought I had to be perfect as well. Now I'm witnessing this imperfect person starting and going ahead and doing it. And I'm imperfect in the way that I'm doing it. I haven't got it all figured out. And maybe I can go ahead and do it anyway as well. And these are the kinds of conversations and reframes I love to really share with my clients and share in my work, because I'm like, man, if we just started to think about, the possibilities and our potentiality, how much could unlock for us if we actually just decided to lead ourselves in our lives in this way.
And I feel your heart. Like, I love that you literally do want to bring everybody along for this ride with you. It's just gorgeous. I feel it. Like, you are my biggest expander. Do you know what I mean? You've left the corporate world. You're paving your entrepreneurship pathway. You've like you said, you've come from perfectionism. You've created standards for yourself, which is funny because you were saying the standards was the perfectionist side of things, but standards is showing up for yourself and taking inspired action. So it's just, yeah, I just love your heart. It's just been so beautiful to come along on the ride with you. So
thank you so much.
love
I'm
this
so
so much.
happy to have you in my world, India.
Oh, I've loved every minute of it. So I guess I have to ask, what is next for Lara Nercessian? Where is the world going? There's big things happening. I see it all the time. So what is next?
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's something big in the works. And I felt like that for a really long time. I've just really felt that as a truth in my body of, I was put on this earth to really do big things and to make a big impact. And I truly believe that my purpose and my mission and my calling in this life is really to help people to step out of their shadows and really reach their level of greatness, really unlock that next level of potentiality and self-belief for themselves. And that is what I'm truly passionate about doing. And so what's next for me is really doing that at a bigger scale. And I'm in the process of really building out some of my membership programs and things where people get to be in a closer proximity container with me over a longer term period, because some of the things that my clients share with me is like, oh, like I realized being connected with you for as long as I have, I look back and this has been the most extraordinary 6 months, 9 months, year, 2 years of my life since I've been connected with you. And things really do start to shift for people when they're in closer proximity with me. And so what I really care about is the impact that I can make on the lives of other people and really helping them to reach that next level, whatever that might mean for them. And so how that looks is really building out my membership programs, my online programs. I plan on doing a lot more in-person events. I really feel like I've got a book in me, like I've got a few books in me, and I haven't felt quite ready for that yet, but I'm like, I feel like that's coming closer and closer of just like, I'm feeling that pull to like do this, you know. And so just more impact, more of what I'm doing, but at a bigger scale. That is really like what I desire, because I feel like at this stage of my life in my career, I'm really doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing. And that is such an extraordinary feeling to have. And so this at a bigger scale, that's the trajectory I see.
And I love that there's a book brewing in you. Like it's phenomenal. All the secrets, the hidden secrets behind your routines. And I love that you're doing in person too. So it's going to be amazing to see you face to face next year.
I know, I'm so excited. We're going to start with an in-person retreat with the Up Level experience. That will be the first one that I do, and then there'll be more of those to come into 2024. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh. Now I'm aware of time and I could talk to you for hours. So I just thought we'd run through some rapid fire questions. Now I know you've already touched on your favorite book. Are we going to go with Dr. Joe Dispenza's as your number one book?
Yeah, look, I think that there's quite a few books. It's hard for me to like just pinpoint one.
I know.
If you wanted me to share like maybe a couple of my biggest impactful books, I'd be happy to do that as well. And some of them, obviously, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, that was like really high up there for me. I also really love Robin Sharma's writing. His words just really touch.
That was the 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
So magic in those words.
So much magic, so much potency in his words. Like I remember reading that book and never having had such a fully transformative and transportational experience as I did when I was reading his book. Like I felt like I was going exactly where he was describing and seeing it with such vividness. And I absolutely love that book. I also love The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Such a great
book. I think that is such a beautiful book and something that I truly believe everyone should read. And I mean, I couldn't not include a book around routines and habits and their Atomic Habits by James Clear. I've probably read that book 3 or 4 times because I really do believe in the power of consistency, the power of habits, and I've seen how it's transformed my own life and the life of my clients. And so that's a book I love to revisit from time to time as well.
Thank you. That's one book I haven't read, but I know that you've posted about that in the past, so it's on my list. I screenshotted all your going through them.
You can just ask me and I'll share recommendations. You don't need to do that.
I love
it. Up level experience, so you get that privilege of ask me next time and I'll share my list of recommendations with you.
Well, I was going to say, part of the Creating the Muse magazine, there is a feature called On the Shelf. So I have been drafting the books based on your social media, what you rated 5 out of 5 that aligned to the feeler. So I'll share that with you before to make sure I nailed it.
I love it. I'm sure you have. You pay attention to the details.
I do. I love the details. Do you want to touch on best investment that you've made for yourself, on yourself? Shall we dive into that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Really the best investment that I've ever made is making the decision to invest in myself, making the decision to invest in my personal growth, in my spiritual growth, in my professional growth. And so it's difficult to pinpoint just one thing because it's been an amalgamation of a few things. And I remember earlier on in my journey, it just started by reading books and listening to podcasts and things of that nature. And then I was very fortunate that I was partnering with a company called Success Resources that would bring global thought leaders and entrepreneurs to the stages in Australia, and they would send me to these events. And so I was very privileged that I got to go to these events and have this front row seat VIP experience and get to meet a lot of these entrepreneurs and thought leaders. And I would blog and share about my experiences. And that was such a beautiful partnership that I had with them for many years. And so they would send me to Tony Robbins events, and I would do Unleash the Power Within. And
Wow.
how it really started for me was like immersing myself into these kinds of experiences. And then I've gotten into private mentorship, what coaching, what private mentorship, what that has done for me as a profession has been huge. Really looking back at my childhood and my conditions and my patterns, and really identifying what have been the things that have really contributed to me thinking and being a certain way. And that may have served me for a certain purpose in a certain period in my life, but learning how to go back and really heal some of that, because nobody has left childhood completely unscathed. Even if you have had an incredible childhood, everyone's got something, everyone's got some kinds of patterns and conditioning. And so really working with private mentors and coaches, and Kate, who's my energetics and embodiment coach, like people like that have really looked at the infrastructure of my life really intimately, and being able to really help me call out these things so that I can really step into my next level of leadership. And so I really believe in this profession of coaching and mentorship profoundly. And I've really believed in investing in myself. So it's not just been one thing, it's been this continuous decision to commit to myself and to invest in myself in this way over the course of quite a few years. That's been the best the best investments I've made.
I love that. I have to admit that I poached that from you, from your your podcast, because I think it's something that resonates with me. Like, what is the best? Every time I hear that in all your podcasts, I hang out for that one question, because it gives you the tools of what you can do to invest within yourself. So, and remove those blocks, like you were talking about, because you could be wanting to attract a partner or attract more abundance into your life, but there could be something, a story in your subconscious that you're not aware of, that you're telling yourself. And getting that support, like you said, from Kate, really helps to kind of, I don't know, rewire or untangle that belief within your,
Yeah, you can spend your entire life trying to figure these things out for yourself, or you could decide to collapse time and work with someone that's going to fast track your success. And I've always believed in, if I can collapse time, if I can find a way to get to where I want to get quicker, I'm going to lean in and I'm going to do it. And another really big investment that I made was in my communication and executive presence coach, Chris Morsley, who I used to be so scared of him 5 years ago.
I love that.
I was petrified of him. My husband had introduced me to him. He said, sorry, I know these are meant to be rapid fire, Indiana, but
no, a great conversation.
He had said, you better put your big girl pants on, because he's tear you to shreds, basically, because he had gone through his program. And, I went from working with Chris in that coaching capacity to becoming really great friends and colleagues with him, to now co-creating a program called Gravitas, where we actually teach people to develop their personal gravitas so that they can show up and become a powerful presence in work and life. And that's the trajectory over 5 years. I went from being scared of this coach to literally co-creating a program with him. And so I'm really interested in collapsing time and getting to where I want to get quicker. Why not? I think it's always worth the investment, and it has paid me the biggest dividends in my own life, I've made that money back tenfold. So
wow.
I believe in it.
I think I needed to hear that. I think a wise woman once said to me, is you can't outlogic these things. You need support. It doesn't matter. And some of the thought leaders within this world, they have coaching and everything. So
Elite performers
important.
have all got coaches, they've all got mentors, they've got a team of people around them that are helping them on their journey. No one is getting there on their own, and
No.
you try, but you're not going to be able to get as far as what you would with the support of the right people around you. So whether you are an Olympic athlete, whether you are a thought leader, whether whoever you are, whether you're a world-class movie star, you've got your team of people around you that are helping you get there, and I really, really believe in that kind of investment.
So powerful. I love hearing that. Thank you. It's like all these little codes of downloads that you give me. So one last question is the theme, creating the muse. What does creating the muse mean to Lara?
Oh, I love this question so much. And, I really believe in empowering people to believe and know that they can create a life that they've always known in their heart that they're destined to live. And so, irrespective of who you are, where you've come from, what's happened to you, I truly believe that you have the power to create a masterpiece of a life for yourself. And I'm really interested in helping empower people to create a life that not just looks successful on the outside, but feels incredible to live as well. And if we can really unlock this concept of living a life of success and fulfillment, and really knowing that you have the power to create that for yourself, that's what I'm really interested in. And I really believe that creating the muse is around you creating this masterpiece of a life for yourself, whatever it is that means for you.
I can so feel that. Oh, thank you so much. For me, it's you are the writer of your life, so write your story. So, and that's what that sounds like, what you're trying to say right there. And you can have it. You can have it all. So,
So
we're going to have to wrap this up. I don't want to, but where can people find you, Lara? What's the best place to find you?
Thank you. So I'm most active on Instagram, I would say, at Lara_Nercessian_. I mean, I'm posting on there 365 days a year right now. So you can always find something new or something that I'm up to on there. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, Lara Nercessian, and my podcast is the Boss in Heels podcast, which you can find anywhere you listen to your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. And my website is laranercessian.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Thank you for being such a beautiful embodiment model of what you can achieve in your life, being an expander, and just for being you. Your heart is absolutely beautiful. You are so genuine and so beautifully natured, such a gorgeous human being. So thank
Oh,
you
thank
again for
you
this.
so much, Indiana. And thank you so much for having me. I really just wanted to say, like, you are such an extraordinary woman. And I just love being part of your world and seeing what you're continuing to create. And your words, the way that you do things, it comes from such a place of purity and love and potency and magic. And I really feel that in everything that you're doing. So thank you for the beautiful work that you're putting out into the world. It's so needed. And it's been such a joy and privilege to do this with you today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lara. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.